I'm Christine Thompson. I'm based just outside of London in the UK. I'm an organisational coach. I've been working with Agile for 23 years, I think. It's a long time. I work with a company based in the UK that does digital solutions for UK government departments. And I coach the organisation, I coach individuals, I coach teams, I work with the agile delivery practice. So everything about being the best versions of ourselves that we can be. So that's me very, very briefly. Like I say, you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll share the details at the end. I am going to share a slide deck, but it's going to be an interactive session. I don't like death by PowerPoint. I don't like to talk for too long, and I think it's really helpful for people to take away ideas and apply them to themselves. So we're going to be working with some breakout sessions. I'll run the conversation online, and Harris is kindly going to help you all in the on-person space to divide into small groups and have some conversations so that we can apply what we're learning to ourselves. The slide deck I will share, so don't worry if you see anything that you want to capture, I will share it with you afterwards, so there's no need to make any notes or anything like that. So I believe I'm sharing. Is that correct? Somebody want to give me a, yeah, thank you. Long gone from Harry's, cool. This is a brand new deck. This is put together fresh for you. It's a topic that Harris chose out of a few ideas that I gave him. So this is brand new for you. This is exclusive. If you hear me talking about anything that isn't making sense, please just let me know. I realise a lot of you aren't working in your first language, so I'm going to try to be careful to explain any terms that I might use. But please do let me know if there's anything that isn't clear. And as I say, we'll spend time in breakout rooms discussing anyway. So my title is From Criticism to Collaboration by Taming Our Judge. I'm going to talk a lot about judgment, how we judge ourselves, how we judge each other, how teams judge their circumstances, and how that really prevents us from being effective. The material that I'm going to share is based on these two books. So I'm giving you that at the start for those of you that like to do extra reading. It's Christopher Avery's Responsibility Process, which has been around for a while, and also Shirzad Chamine's Positive Intelligence. So those are the two things that I'm going to be referencing as I'm talking. Who is our judge? The judge is something that I've been aware of for a while in terms of my own inner critic. The piece of you that criticizes what you're doing, but there's so much more to it than that. Christopher Avery's Responsibility Process talks about these mental states that we go through. So these ways of thinking when something isn't working out as we wished it would, when we're triggered by anxiety, frustration, when we're dealing with a problem, the set of states that we go through when we're trying to cope with the problem. We haven't yet fixed the problem, but we're just trying to deal with what's happened. So he describes these set of states, and I'm going to focus in just on 3 of them for now, for the purposes of this talk, this workshop. Lay blame, justify, and shame. So 3 mental states that we go into when we're dealing with a problem, and they look like this. When we're in shame, I am the problem. I caused it. It's my fault. I'm missing some skill, some capability, and I deserve to feel bad about that. I beat myself up. I'm stupid. I'm incapable. I can't do this. All of those things that we say to ourselves when we're critical of what we've done or failed to do. So that sense of shame, I am the problem. I caused this to happen. Justify comes when we blame our circumstances. So for example, and this is very topical because it's raining in Athens. The rain makes me miserable. If you think about that statement for a moment, it's the sort of thing we might say, the rain makes me miserable. So what? I'm never going to be happy whilst it's raining? Really? It has to stop raining for me to feel better? So in this state, our problem won't go away until our circumstances change. We're at the mercy of our circumstances. There's nothing we can do about it. Something is happening to us that is making us in this state. So we justify our circumstances by blaming what's going on around us. So you see how we're still not fixing the problem. We're just blaming something, either ourselves or circumstances, or blaming someone else. I'm just the victim. I'm powerless in this. There's nothing I can do because you did this to me. This is your fault. Sometimes the first thing we say to ourselves when we can't find our car keys or our door keys, who moved them? Who moved my keys? First thing we say, it's someone else's fault. And I'm always going to have this problem until you change. When you change, then things will be fixed for me. So it's your fault and I'm blaming you. So do you see how we have those three mental states that Christopher Avery describes when we're either blaming ourselves, someone else, or what's happening around us? And we're at the mercy of those things. We can't fix them. So that's how Christopher Avery looks at it. And I'm just going to move on to Shirzad Chamine's thinking because the two of them line up very nicely. Shirzad Chamine talks about our saboteurs. Let me explain what a saboteur is. A saboteur is something that spoils things for us, that makes things go wrong for us. And what they are is something that is normally a strength, but we abuse it. We take it to the extreme and it becomes a problem for us. It undermines us. So, for example, I might be vigilant. I might watch out for problems. But if I become hypervigilant, then I'm always going to be on edge, expecting things to go wrong. So our strength becomes our weakness. But I'm only going to talk about one saboteur because that ties into our topic. I'm going to talk about the judge. The judge saboteur is the master saboteur. It's the one that we all have and is our biggest problem. And Shirzad describes three aspects to our judge. Our judge of self. So we beat ourselves up for our past mistakes or our current shortcomings. So the things that we don't do well now, we're critical of with ourselves. There's the judge of others. What's wrong with you? What did you do wrong? And I'm superior to you. I'm better than you because you got something wrong. So I'm going to judge you for it. And then our third one is our judge of circumstances. I cannot be happy until I get a promotion. I cannot be happy until I buy a house. I cannot be happy until I have children. I cannot be happy until I own a holiday home in Barbados, whatever it might be. And there's always something that we're chasing. We'll never be happy until our circumstances are just right. But every time we get that thing, the goalposts change and we move on to something else. So this is the thinking of Shirzad Chamine around the judge saboteur. And I just want to show you how this lines up with Christopher Avery's thinking, because look, they are the same. It's the same thinking, right? The judge of self is shame. I am the problem. The judge of others is lay blame. You are the problem. You caused this. You did this to me. And then our judge of circumstances is our justify. I cannot be happy until it stops raining, for example. So it really struck me as I looked at these two books and the thinking within them, how this really, really lines up and how huge our judge is, how much it impacts us. It stops us fixing problems, right? Right? Am I right? But hang on a minute. Maybe I need my judge. Maybe my judge pushes me to achieve things, right? It's challenging. It stops me becoming lazy. It's making sure that I'm doing my best. My judge is going to tell me about my failures so that I can fix them, right? It's my judge that makes me successful because it keeps me on track and it's strict and it tells me when I've gone wrong and it tells you when you've gone wrong. Do we need our judge? I'm just going to play you a little clip of Shirzad Chamine telling us why he thinks we don't need our judge. Now, I'm hoping this is going to be audible in the room. If there's any problems with the sound, just let me know. We don't have to listen to this. I can explain it. But let me play it and see if it comes out. If any problems, just shout.
First, let me paint a picture for you. Imagine you have this 10-year-old kid who lives with you. The kid is participating in a week-long sports competition at school. At the end of the first day, the kid comes home a little banged up and injured, saying the competition didn't go very well. In disappointment and frustration, you throw this kid down to the floor, punching and kicking, to teach this kid a lesson and push the kid to perform better the next day. I know this is a very disturbing image, but that's in a way what you're constantly doing to yourself. More precisely, that's what your saboteurs are constantly doing to you, beating you up so you do better. The truth is the opposite. Beating yourself up drains you of vital mental and emotional energy which you could have focused on improving yourself and performing even better. Remember, pulling yourself with positive energy works much better in the long run than pushing yourself with negative energy. It's also more fun along the way.
Hopefully that came out okay. Nobody told me it didn't. So, do we need our judge? No, it's not helpful. Being in judgment, being in blame, justify, and shame means that we're not taking responsibility. We're not owning the problem. We're not doing something about it. We're just criticizing the situation, criticizing ourselves, and criticizing others. It's not helping us. We can't change things whilst we stay in that powerless state. Well, I'm judging myself and I'm judging you. I'm not in a state to fix the problem. I'm not taking responsibility, as Christopher Avery would say. And as Shirzad said just then, pulling yourself with positive energy works much better in the long run. So to say that we need our judge and our judge is pushing us to achieve is the same as that awful story where he beats the kid on the floor because they haven't done so well in the sports tournament. That is what we're doing to ourselves and to our colleagues when we sit in judgment. We can name our judge. We all have a judge. And when we name our judge, it helps us to identify it. We can create a character for our judge. And when you do that, it becomes separate to you. It's not me, but it's a part of me that I can choose to control. And when we name it, when it shows up, it reduces the power, it reduces the impact. So Shirzad's judge is called the executioner. It's a very, very tough guy, this judge. Just a note of caution, don't name your judge after somebody you know, because every time they show up, you're going to have a bad experience. I'm going to tell you about my judge. I'm going to introduce you to my judge. Please forgive the language, because my judge is called the snarky bitch. She is sarcastic. She is cynical and critical of everyone else. She loves an eye roll. Oh, and a sigh. Really? Are we going to do that again, are we? Oh, well, let's see how that works out, shall we? I'm superior and everyone else is plain stupid. That's my judge. Oh, really? We're going to do that again, are we? Really? What a brilliant idea. Not. She also thinks that I'm worthless, and she likes to remind me of that. So this is my judge, the snarky bitch. The picture isn't me, but it reminds me of what my judge looks like. And when she shows up, I can reference her. So if I'm sitting in a team meeting and I hear somebody say something that I think I don't like, I can notice, oh, there goes the snarky bitch again, saying that that person has got a bad idea. And when I name her, when I call her out, it means I can separate from her and manage her rather than allowing her to come through. And we're going to talk in a minute about the impact on teams. I want to just start focusing for a minute on our own judges. So as you're listening to me describing my judge, perhaps you're starting to get some ideas of your judge. What is your judge like? Can you identify that person that shows up in you that says you're worthless, you're stupid, or someone else is an idiot? Driving is a good time to find your judge. I think we all have a judge when we're driving. What's your judge like? Can you identify when they show up? And when they do show up, how does that impact you? How does that impact others? How does that impact the situation? So I'm just going to invite you to spend a few minutes in small groups. Like I say, Harris is going to organise in person. Online, we'll just stay together in this group and just see what ideas you all have about your judge, if indeed you have any that you'd be willing to share. So we take 10 minutes. Harris, is that okay in the room?
I think yes.
Cool.
But
All right.
do you want to take any questions if there are questions?
That's a good point. Let's do that. Does anybody have any questions before we break out?
Not from here, online?
Okay. Anything online? Okay, well, let's talk in the breakout rooms. I think that'll start to sort of flesh out the ideas. Thanks, Harris. Do you want to put us on mute for 10?
Yes.
Cool. Thank you. All right. Online, if you want to come off mute, if you want to come on video, whatever you feel comfortable with. What are you noticing? What's showing up for you? Anybody identify with their judge? Maybe take it a step back. Do people identify with this sense of judgment, of judging self and judging others? Does that resonate for you? Do you feel that within you or notice it in other people, perhaps?
I think I'm just going to go. Is it okay if I speak?
Absolutely, please. Yeah, thanks very much.
Everybody is speaking, so I thought.
Thank you.
just say something. Yeah, I think I'm finding it a little bit hard to recognize the judge. I think because I'm studying coaching right now, I've seen like similar exercises where you have to identify something that maybe is not so much in you. I feel that maybe if I give it a little bit more thought, I might identify a judge. Right now, I'm feeling it's kind of ingrained inside me. It's not a
Yes.
separate thing.
Yes, absolutely.
But I would say that judge is not so, I mean, he or she, because is kind towards me and other people. Is not like completely, oh, you're horrible. I mean, because
Yes.
I mean, she shares characteristics with me.
Yes.
So I'm not, ready to separate it yet.
Mhm.
But I think the reason is that this judge has a lot of kindness. So they might be like, okay, why are you doing this?
Yes.
But also some empathy. That's the word I'm looking for.
Great. So then that is not your judge, Marina. That is lovely, right? That's the piece of you we're going to talk about in a minute that looks at you and says, hey, nice try. What would be better? It has empathy for other people and says, how can we improve? That's very different to the judge, right? That's a real positive. And you absolutely don't want to separate that from you. That's your true self. That's beautiful. The judge is the piece when you're driving down the road and somebody pulls out in front of you and you go, idiot.
Yeah,
Or
maybe
the bit, sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt you. Maybe for some minutes or some hours of the day, that could be like a judge that is, just has negative emotions.
Yes.
But I think I'm trying to make this judge to be empathetic.
Yes.
But yeah, definitely those emotions, I do get them as all people do.
Absolutely.
Especially when driving in Greece. So yeah. A different personality that comes out for a bit there. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think right now it's not completely separated, but
Yes. Yeah. And it sounds like you've done some work on it, which is brilliant, right? You've already got it under control, which is great. What about for other people? How does it show up for you?
Hello, good evening.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm Carmen. I'm from Romania. Nice to be here with you. When you talk about the judge, mine it's a very angry judge, especially when there are things to be done and I do not know how. I feel overwhelmed, but I feel somehow superior, like I don't know. It's a strange feeling inside. Angry and superiority.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like an absolute brilliant description of the judge. Yeah. The judge thinks that you're better than other people. You have that superior feeling, and definitely anger. Any anger is the judge, absolutely.
Yeah. And it's interesting because inside I feel so smaller compared with the times when I'm okay. But the way I acted outside, it's inflamed. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
I like the fact that Carmen was saying inside I feel like smaller, which is already some acknowledge of the fact that she's judging kind of herself, because she didn't say I am smaller inside, but I show up, but she said I feel like. So it's a matter of feeling and perceiving that it might not be the reality.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Nice. What about for you, Daniela? Do you
Well,
have a judge?
I struggle with the judge in me mostly because when it's judging other people, not really when it's judging me, like
Yes.
Marina was saying before.
Yes.
I'm really tolerant with myself. So my judge is annoying when I work with the teams, for instance, and I see them behaving how I'm not expecting them to behave. I love to see people, my teams getting along. I'm an agile coach, so I'm doing team coaching. So I'd rather see them. I prefer to see them getting along and never argue and be transparent and not speaking at the back of the others. And whenever this happens, I get upset, I get mad, and I start judging them. Like, there you go, you're doing again the same mistakes. Luckily enough, I'm not telling them this, but my thoughts go there directly.
It's
so I
in your head.
judge them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm frustrated for this because I'm their coach. I shouldn't at all, but
Yeah.
it just happened. Like with the children at home, I judge them continuously. But because I feel it's my work, but it's not. I should advise them, not judge them.
Yeah, amazing. Thanks, Daniela. Thanks for describing that. Yeah. It's tough, right? We have this judge, and you know, as Marina says, if we can get a handle on it and we can sort of tame it, then it lasts for a shorter length of time, as Marina was saying. She has that for the moment, and then it passes. And we'll never get rid of our judge. We just need to be able to control it, to know it's there, and to recognize it and put it to one side, and be in that better state where we can respond better. So Daniela, as you're saying, sort of to catch it and not say it, that's a huge step forward, right? Because often it just comes out. Yeah. We're a little over time. I don't know what Harris is doing in the room, if he's going to wrap up. I don't think he can hear us. We're having a long conversation, which is very nice. Whilst we wait for Harris to come back in the room, anybody else? Anything showing up for anybody else on the judge? What are you noticing? I realise it's a lot to share, right? It's quite a vulnerable thing to share.
And also, it's something that you need to elaborate. It's not so immediate. I was thinking a lot about this because I was doing the path with for the positive intelligence. So I had the opportunity to think about it a lot. And it's not so simple.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And what I noticed when I was doing the positive intelligence work, and I think there's a reference on the slides to that, is that I had managed my judge of self over the years. I'd done some work on it. What was really showing up for me was the judge of others. That one I had done no work on, and that one was, it just felt really strong. So lots of work to be done on that. So for some of you, you might find it in certain areas and not in others, depending on how it shows up for you. Yeah.
I think someone is messaging us.
I believe it's Harris.
Yes.
He's asking if we're done. We're done.
Oh yeah, we're done.
Know.
We're done, Harris. I've lost my chat. Does somebody want to say?
Hi there.
Yeah, we're done. We're ready. Are you ready?
Are you ready? Okay.
We're ready.
We'll be gathering. Okay.
So are they ready or not?
They're gathering.
Okay, they're just, I guess, moving back into the room. Cool. It's very interesting to be speaking to a hybrid group when I'm not physically in the room. I don't think I've ever done that before. I don't think I've ever worked hybrid when I've been online. So it's a really interesting experience.
Before, when I was waving to a friend of mine who was in that room.
In the audience.
That was the hybrid thing happening.
That is so cool. Yeah.
And I saw you waving back. I was like, okay.
Okay, we're back.
We're back. Okay, fabulous. So hopefully you had some good conversations in the room. We certainly had some good conversations online. It shows up differently for different people. Different people have done certain amounts of work in different areas. So it's quite individual. Shows up for us all differently. Let's then take it one step further and talk about how the judge shows up in our teams. So if we think about the agile teams that we're working with, when is the judge present there? Let's see if we can take some examples. So how many times have you been in a team environment and heard somebody be very judgmental about themselves? I'm too stupid to be able to fix this issue. I should just give up. I'm talking too much. I need to stop talking. I don't understand this. I'll never get it right. We hear people judge themselves, be very critical about their own achievements. What's the impact of that? If I think I'm no good at something, I'm not even going to try. I should just give up. I'm not going to try to do that, which maintains my belief that I can't do something because I've never disproved myself. I've never tried it and found that I could. So when we judge ourselves, we limit ourselves and we put ourselves into a very negative state of mind, which can really have an impact on the team. Just have a think for a minute. Have you heard people do this? Criticize themselves in front of everybody for something that they've failed on. Judging others in our teams. That's a terrible idea. It'll never work. The team are trying to solve a problem. No, we can't do that. No, that's ridiculous. That won't work. What a terrible idea. What happens? What's the impact? Well, for one thing, I'm never going to make a suggestion again. If I tried to offer an idea and I was told it was no good and it'll never work, I'm going to be afraid of that criticism next time. So the team is going to get less input because I'm not going to give my ideas, and maybe other people aren't going to give their ideas for fear of being judged. So it closes down the generation of ideas, the brainstorming in the team, because people are afraid to speak for fear of being judged by someone else. So it really reduces our capabilities. What about judge of circumstances? This again is something that we see a lot in teams. We'll never be an effective team until we have more testers. Nothing we can do, not our fault. We're short of testers, so we'll never be able to achieve this. We'll never be able to deliver on time because we're short of testers. Nothing we can do. Management don't support us, so what can we do? We're never going to be an effective team. We're never going to achieve this because of this, that, and the other circumstances that are inflicted upon us. So what's the impact? Again, we're not even going to try. We believe we're helpless. Until the circumstances change, there's nothing we can do. So the teams sit in this negative state where they're helpless and they can't resolve the problem because they believe it to be outside of their control, when often there would be other things that they could do if their judge wasn't showing up. We're going to go back to conversations now about the judge in our teams, but just before we do, let's just check in. Anybody got any thoughts or questions before we have a conversation about the judge in our teams? Is that making sense to you, how those three styles show up? Yeah. All right. Well, if there's questions, it'll come out in the teams as we break out. So back into your breakout groups again. Just 10 minutes. Harris, if you can just do 10, that'd be amazing. Thank you. How does the judge show up in your teams? What's it like? When do they show up? And what's the impact on the team when that happens? Let's have another conversation.
I'll take the invisible microphone once again.
Thank you.
I feel that in Greece and in Greek teams, I think we mainly blame the circumstances
Right.
because it's easier. I'm trying to think of a time when I've been in a team and somebody blames themselves. I believe it's never happened to me.
Good. I'm glad.
I'm not sure if it's good or not. Never happened. It's usually the circumstances or other people. But when I'm in teams, I try to kind of not push the kind of the blame to other people, but
Yes.
not so much in circumstances because you can't change it, to kind of focus on finding a solution, not kind of saying whose fault is it, but what we did wrong. But yeah, I'd say that what I usually come across more often is blaming the circumstances and, you know, other people also. But like, I think it's good practice to try to avoid that as much as possible.
Absolutely. Can you give us any examples, Marina, of the kinds of things that the team might blame?
If, for example, a sale goes bad, that we blame the company that we buy the products from because they don't have specific rules and we thought it would be a different discount, and it's kind of blaming other people. And I do agree that it's to an extent correct, but you know, there's always things that you can do to you know, to control it as much as you can. So it makes sense, but you know, the correct focus would be what can we do to make this better. But yeah, having once come across a team where somebody blames themselves, I wonder what that experience would be like. So yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks, Marina. What about for others? How does the judge show up in teams? What have you seen? Anything that is more common in other cultures? So Marina's talked a little bit about in her Greek teams, it tends to be circumstances. Any other perspectives on which kind of judge shows up?
In my teams, the judge comes out always when there is a problem. So whenever there is an issue or there is some tension, then it's always you know, the right time for blaming somebody else. And so instead of focusing on ourselves or focusing on the product or focusing on the issue, the team, I see that they are more focused on judging each other. Precisely the work of the other person, the mistakes that they've done and what they should have done. So, and it's very toxic. It's and whenever, even when a team gets along, whenever there is a stress period, then they start to, the first thing that comes out is judging the work of the other person or the other people. That's how I see in my teams what's happening the most when the judge comes out.
Yeah. What's the impact then when that happens?
Oh, it gets worse. They lose the focus on the objective, and they start doing, you know, small battles against each other. And so it's not anymore a matter of working together. and the harmony of the team is completely ruined, and it's very, very difficult to regain the trust because nobody likes to feel judged. But everybody feels relaxed in judging the others. So I agree with Marina. There should be work for improving this and starting, well, not judging. It's okay to discuss. It's okay to, you know, some conversation around the things. And if you don't get, if you don't agree, then you can talk, but politely and nicely without judging too much.
Absolutely, yeah. So we're going to go there next when we resume. I don't know anyone else, but I'm starting to feel a little bit miserable through talking about the judge too much.
I wanted to bring some stuff from the chat because I know you told me.
Yeah, I've lost the chat.
Yeah,
So
I will read
find
it.
Would you? Brilliant. Yeah.
So Samuela Alexopoulos to everyone. A judge is welcome, and we need to find to convince the team otherwise. So they like the judge, apparently.
Right.
And underneath, democracy means all input is valid. Then we all examine. So it looks like they, I don't know, they appreciate the judge the concept to some extent.
Right.
The person there says that.
And that's exactly what we're going to talk about next, right? Because yes, we need that assessment, but do we need the bit where we beat people up, where we're cruel and unkind and we break trust and cause more stress and end up in a toxic environment, as Daniela was saying, and then we're on a downward spiral? So we need something, absolutely agree, but not the bit where we beat each other up. Yeah. Any other perspectives on the judging the team before we get pulled back?
Yeah, I was reading what Samuel was writing, that a judge is welcome. Probably a comment is welcome, an observation is welcome, not really a judge. I wouldn't welcome a judge. I would prefer to have a comment, a feedback, an opportunity for improvement, but not a judge.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's exactly where we're going. Sorry, Marina. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I keep interrupting you.
No, it's good.
Our judges, something happened here, I think, for a brief second. Anyway, I was going to say that I feel that I kind of forgot what I wanted to say. That a judge is valuable to some extent. I was going to say the following, that sometimes I have issues giving feedback to people without them feeling that I'm judging them as a whole. I might be giving feedback. I want to judge one specific, not judge. I mean, I want to alter a specific behavior or thing you're doing, and the other person is feeling that I'm judging their whole personality, and I'm just trying to communicate that this thing I believe should change. Or this result should change. If you don't want to change your behavior, it's okay. Just, I want this result change. And the other people cannot understand that it's just that you're telling them that this thing is wrong. I'm not saying this for your whole character.
Yeah.
So.
And sometimes, absolutely, what gets triggered is their judge of self. They hear you saying, could you close the door behind you when you leave the room? And they've heard, you're completely useless at work, because their judge has picked up on that and decided to beat them up for something. So it's triggered their self-judge, which you can't control.
Yeah.
Right? You can't control how somebody responds to that. If you delivered the feedback against one piece and they've taken it much wider. Yeah. So the awareness of the judge is key, which is what we're going to talk about next. I'm just waiting for Harris to unmute us.
Shall I read some more of the comments?
Yes.
Okay.
So we're slightly coming back.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. You come back. We're just wrapping up. Yeah, we're ready, but we'll do something while you come back. Oh, are you ready?
Yeah, we can have 1 more minute. It's like 10 minutes
Okay,
mark because
yeah, okay, one minute then, if that's okay, because Marina was just going to share some stuff.
No,
Sorry,
I was just
Marina,
reading
thank you.
the chat. No,
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
Sometimes a judge on their judgment provides a contrast for somebody else's something better. That was the chat thing. So that was all.
Yes, it brings another perspective, but again, that's doesn't have to be the judge. The judge would do it in a I'm right and you're wrong. What we're seeing there in that example is a yes and we're going to come on to that. I feel like we've probably spent too long now exploring the judge, and we're really itching to move forward into what would be better. Yeah, because those comments are all bringing us towards that, and the comments that you've both made here about actually, well, what are we going to do about this? What would be better? We know we don't want that. That's yes. And how can we do it constructively? Yeah, because we do need constructive feedback. Yeah. Cool. All righty. I sent Harris away for a minute and now I've lost him. I could do the walkie-talkie. He's there. Cool.
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. Yeah, we're here. Perfect. Shall we move on? We've had a really good conversation again, and we're really, really itching to move forward. So let's do that. Let's do the next piece then. So we want to move from this sense of criticism to collaboration. We know we don't like the judge and the way it shows up, but we see there is some value in that sense of what I'm going to call discernment, and I'll talk about that in a moment. So how do we move forward? So I'm just going to make it simple in 2 steps. We need to be able to identify the fact that the judge exists. So the education piece with the team, we have a judge. The judge operates in these 3 ways. When we're in the state of judgment, it's taking away our power and our ownership. We are not taking responsibility when we're pointing fingers at each other, pointing fingers at ourselves, or just blaming things that we think are outside of our control. So how can we agree to call it out and operate from a more positive, constructive state? And then building on that, replace it. So what should we do differently? What should we do instead? Because we still need this sense of discernment, but we just don't want to be beating people with a stick. So what if we place judgment with curiosity? We're trying to understand what's going on, and what Shirzad calls blameless discernment. So instead of saying somebody or something has caused it, take that away and just look at it objectively and just understand what is there. What has happened? What needs fixing? What could a solution be? Instead of doing the blame piece. So we're using positive language and building on positive ideas. So let's have a look at that. So identifying the judge, how do we do that? Well, let's go back to our 3 examples from before. I'm too stupid to be able to fix this issue. I should just give up. That was our first example. Reword that. My judge thinks I'm too stupid to be able to fix this issue and I should just give up. What's the difference when you consider those 2 statements? Just let you think about that for a moment. How does the second one read differently? Let's take the next one. Judge of others. That's a terrible idea. It'll never work. Sounds like your judge thinks that's a terrible idea, which will never work. Again, what's the difference? What's the effect of the second one? And our third example was we'll never be an effective team until we have more testers. Our judge thinks we can't be effective until we have more testers. When you name it as the judge and you call it out as the judge, it takes away its power. It becomes something separate that we can control, that we're not at the mercy of. We can choose to overcome it. So just simply by naming the fact that it's our judge or naming it for other people, I'm hearing your judge, showing up when you say that? When we become aware of that and name it, it takes away its power. So we can introduce the concept of judgment to our team. Educate our teams. Self-judgment, shame. How does that show up for us all? Exactly as we've been doing today. What about judgment of others, blame? How does that show up in our team? Explore it with the team. What about judging our circumstances? Justifying. So our teams understand that it's there and it happens, and to become aware of it. So ask your team, how does it show up with them? How does the judge appear in your team? And how does it impact you when it does? So we're calling out those toxic pieces. I know we've had some fabulous comments in the chat about how there is a level of judgment that is useful, and we'll come on to that in a moment. We're calling out the toxicity here, the criticism and the blame, the finger pointing. How does that show up in the team, and what's the impact? Christopher Avery has this 3 keys approach. Start with the intention to operate from a position of responsibility and ownership. So instead of going into judgment and being at the mercy of other people or circumstances, we intend to be in that state of powerful responsibility. We create that awareness. What state are we in now? Are we in a positive state, or are we in a state of judgment? And where do we choose to be? Once you call it out and say, my judge thinks this, you can make a choice about how you're going to operate. And then confront it. Face it directly. Resolve it without judgment. Resolve it in a positive way, without that blame and that criticism that comes with our judge. So that's our first step, to educate the team, understand how the judge shows up, understand the impact, and resolve to work in a different way, not to work in blame and judgment, but to work in a more positive way. And then our second step, that sense of curiosity instead, right? This is one of the beliefs that we have in systems coaching. Everybody is right partially. So we all have a valid opinion, which is important for the team to hear, but we don't have the whole truth. One of us does not have the whole truth. We all have something we can bring. So everybody is right partially with our own piece. So what if we were to suspend our own opinion, our own judgment for a moment, and discover what is right about what other people are saying? Can you see how that's different to that sense of judgment? I want to be curious about what you're bringing, what you're saying, and what is right about what you're saying. Suspending my own opinion. And then back to this sense of what we call blameless discernment. So looking at the situation without criticism and without judgment, and saying, what is the wisdom here? What can we learn? What could be possible? What would be better? All of those constructive and curious ways of looking at things, taking into account what everybody's bringing from the team and building on that together in a positive and constructive way. Taking away the judgment and being curious instead. Shirzad has a tool for this. You may have been familiar previously with the yes and, right? As opposed to yes but. So yes but negates anything that came before it. If you say, you're looking lovely today, but I wish you wouldn't wear red, then you've really taken away that compliment, right? You've just nulled it by the use of the word but. So yes and is a very constructive way of talking. And Shirzad adds a piece to that, which is yes, what I like and, which builds positively and constructively on what someone else has said, takes away any judgment. For example, let's do a scenario. We should try writing a new library to resolve this issue, might be a statement. And somebody in judgment might say, that's a terrible idea. We don't have time. closes it down immediately. Judgment, and all discussion stops. What if we were to replace that with something more like this? Yes, what I like about that idea is it's reusable. And I'm going to add my piece now. We could see if there's a third-party library already available. I've listened to what you've said, I've not judged, and I've built on it with another idea. You can go on. Yes, what I like about that idea is it's less work for us to implement. And we could ask another team if they have a solution. So again, I've listened, I've acknowledged, I've appreciated what you've said, and I've built on it with my own idea. Keep going. Yes, what I like about that idea is that we learn from someone else who's already done this. And we can see if there's anything on the community forums about this. Imagine that conversation in a team. Every time somebody says something, we've said, yes, what I like is. They've heard what we've said, they've appreciated what we've said, and then they've added a new idea. Imagine, how do you feel? At the end of that conversation, how do you feel? For me, that feels really good, right? I'm not going to be angry about that at all because that was a really positive exchange. People have listened, acknowledged, appreciated, and built on it, rather than just being critical and closing each other down. So do you see how it's this sense of being curious, listening to each other, taking all the different perspectives, because everybody is right partially. So by closing down judgment, we're not closing down the ideas and the discernment of the ideas and the curiosity about what people are thinking. We're closing down the criticism and the blame, because those are the toxic pieces. And we're replacing them with positivity, curiosity, listening, and building on other people's ideas in a constructive way. We're going to have a little practice. Are you up for this? Let's do it. We're going to practice the yes, what I like, and. Now you can choose any topic you like. I've got a suggestion how to make this meetup group even better. Go wild, go crazy. Just do a little. We're only going to spend a couple of minutes on it. So Harris, sort of, 3 to 5 minutes, depending on how it goes. I'm just checking the time. Just practice using.
You're working for us on how we can improve the group. So thanks.
I thought it might be a useful topic for the group, but like I say, you can change it. If you want to say, what should we eat for dinner? You can have that if you want, whenever. Yeah, but absolutely. Why not improve the group? Is it possible to improve this group, Harris? I'm not sure.
Of course. There's plenty of room for improvement. So let's give it 5 minutes.
So let's give it 5 minutes. Go back into breakout rooms and we're going to practice. Yes, what I like, and go crazy. Okay, they're on mute. Cool. All right. So I need to ask who's willing to participate. I don't know whether everybody is or isn't. It'd be fabulous if we get more people. So I'm going to ask if you're willing to participate in the game, to unmute, and then we can see how many people we've got that are willing to play. Okay, cool. So we've got 4. That's fine. Let's play with it. Let's do it between the 4 of us that are unmuted. So just dive in, and you just add to what somebody else has said. We don't have to go in order or anything. So I'll start. So I think we could make this meetup group even better if we invited speakers to travel to Athens.
I can follow and say yes. And what I like about this idea is that would make the meetups more diverse and interesting, as it's collecting contributes from all over the world. And we could start thinking about people close to Greece so that the expenses wouldn't be so heavy.
Yes, and they can bring us treats from the countries they're coming from. So that would be a bonus for the team as well, especially if we can eat those treats. It could be chocolate or things like that. So, yeah.
Yes, what I like about that idea is the opportunity to discover things from different cultural food bases. And we could get local businesses to come in and sponsor the group so that we could pay for speakers to come from even further with other treats to eat.
Nice.
So the ideas don't have to be connected, right? So you don't have to build on the other person's idea. You just have to say what you like about it. And then you could say something completely different. So I might reply to myself and say, yes, what I like about that idea is it increases the pool of speakers that we've got. And we could have a list of topic areas that the group wants to hear about that might encourage people to come if their topic was being discussed.
And I like, yes, and I like the idea of having a backlog of topics to cover. And we could ask the community to vote, like a link coffee, for their favorite one, so that we start with the most important for the community.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, what I like about that idea is that it's for the community and for the people that this group serves. And we could get other meetup groups to give us their ideas of topics and speakers so that we could share ideas and speakers between all the meetup groups around the world.
Yes, and maybe the general public would be interested in some of these, the most mainstream speeches and events. That would be interesting to educate them in what coaching is and agile coaching.
So Marina, remember to add the what I like bit before you do the and, yeah? Yes, what I like.
Yeah, what I like is that also this could be added.
Mhm.
Yeah, because you sort of complement the previous idea that way. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. Let's pause there because we've had a really good go at
Well,
it.
actually, Harris's writing seems a bit challenging. Can we give 2 more minutes? So, so they're still discussing, I guess. Let me see
Fine.
them.
That's great if they're playing around with it. Love it. Let's just talk about what it's like. So I just want to pick up on what Marina's just said. What is it like to participate or to observe? For those of you that chose to observe, that's fine. What is it like when you hear this technique?
Well, the first impression that I had doing this exercise is that I'm forced to hear the other person, to select what I liked, and to build on top, maybe, or maybe suggest something totally different. It requires more listening, at least for me.
Absolutely agree, Daniela. I felt exactly the same. You have to have listened in order to be able to respond. You cannot respond unless you've listened. And that, to me, it just feels amazing. Somebody listened to me and appreciated what I said. And they might bring a completely different perspective, but I don't care now because I feel heard. That sense of positivity.
That's why, what I like is so important, because or else it's just me adding something, and it could be me ignoring what you said and just saying my own thing. But that way I sort of acknowledge what you said, I align, and then I add my extra thing. So yeah, language is
absolutely. It is, yeah. Because you could say, let's get a cat. Yes, and we could get a dog. And you just like, yeah, but I said a cat. You could say, yes, what I like about that is a cat is a really good companion. And we could get a dog. Then it doesn't seem quite so harsh. Because you've acknowledged something there. Is that Harris coming back to us? Yeah. Cool.
We have some interesting conversations going on here.
I hope you're taking notes on what to improve.
Well, no, because there are so many ideas, but I would like to hear some of the crazy ideas, like just maybe one crazy idea from here. I heard like we can do a carnival party. I don't know how they reached that conclusion, but anyway. And then I said, okay, maybe we can get dressed as our judges in this carnival party.
Love it.
Another crazy idea from here. What else have you got?
What we try is to say something something that we don't agree at all. So to challenge ourselves.
Okay.
So for example, we said, I suggested as an idea to do the meetups fully remotely, right? For example. Although we don't agree with that, but we want to challenge ourselves and see how we can continue on this suggestion and try not to say bad, but continue saying, find the positive things. And I must say, it was very difficult. Yeah.
I love that approach. Yeah, pick something challenging and still try to say what I like about that thing. Try to find that piece where that person is partially right. Yeah, that's brilliant.
Any crazy idea from the online group?
Oh, we've got all sorts of stuff. We're bringing speakers from all around the world who are going to bring culinary delights, lots of nice food to share with the people in Greece. We're sharing speakers and ideas between all meetups across the world so that we can pool resources and pool ideas. We're having a list of topics that people can vote for that will be covered in the group, and we're opening it out to the general public.
That's nice. That's very nice.
And we're getting a cat and a dog. But I don't think that was related.
Okay.
Is it something that can be improved by practicing?
Yeah.
Because
absolutely.
Okay.
It's hard, right?
Yeah.
Especially when you're brainstorming, because when you're brainstorming, you're used to listening for your own answer first. What do I want to say is this. But this technique, because you've got to say what I like, it forces you to listen and appreciate what someone else has said. And then think of your own idea. So you're right, it's hard. It's really difficult to do both at once. But the emotional impact of somebody saying to you, what I like about your idea is this. Even if you then go on to make a suggestion which is the complete opposite, you have created positivity in the space. That person feels heard and acknowledged, and now in return will listen to your idea because you listened to theirs. So you're on an upward spiral of positivity at that point. But yeah, it's hard. It needs practice. Yeah. So just to recap, I'm just aware of the time. Just to recap then. So identify the judge in our teams and the impact that it has, and agree as a team that we're going to call it out. If I hear you judge yourself, I'm going to name it. If you hear me being judgmental, you're going to name it. And if we judge our circumstances, we're all going to name it. And agree that that is what we intend to do. And then replace the judge with curiosity and collaborative thinking. So we still need that, right? We're not taking away the, here's another idea that we could try. But we're taking away the blame and the criticism and the finger pointing and all those negative ways of speaking that we might use. And we're turning it into a positive. Yes, what I like, and using that's what we call blameless discernment. So instead of pointing the finger at someone, we're saying curiosity. What could be better? How could we use this? How can we work with this? How can we improve? Rather than being stuck. So that brings us to the end. So just to recap again, our judge likes us to shame ourselves, blame others, and justify our circumstances. It just loves to do that, but it's disempowering. It stops us dealing with things in a positive way. So when we spot our judge and call it out, it can no longer undermine us. It becomes a slightly separate entity. My judge thinks this won't work is a very different statement to that won't work. And we get better outcomes when we have this sense of curiosity, no blame, look at things in an objective way, discernment, and that sense of positive collaboration so that we work together to find better ways rather than just being critical. So just in the dying minutes, are we doing post-it notes in the room or are we having quick conversation? Harris, how do you want to do it in the room? We'll do it on the chat online.
We do have post-its, so I can share them.
So grab a post-it note and just put one thing on the post-it note. What have you learned about the judge? How are you? What is it you're taking away? Let me put it that way. What are you taking away from what we've talked about tonight? So just take a minute to write yourselves a post-it note. You can share it with the people next to you if you want. We'll just do that online. So in the chat for those online, instead of a post-it note, what is it that you're taking away from what we've talked about this evening? Words matter. More sensitive and aware. I love that, the wise judge. Yeah. Speak about it with the teams. Yeah, absolutely. Name the judge. And thoughts matter. They really do, don't they? Yeah. Anybody else? Who haven't we heard from? Byron, George, anything? Panagiotis. Panagiotis. That's a beautiful name. Said completely wrongly, I'm sure. Apologies. Any thoughts to add? What are you taking away? Nice. That's beautiful.
Should I read out loud some?
Go for it. Just pick a few, Harris. That's amazing. I mean, this is our last thing we've done after this, so whatever time you want to spend.
So try to spot the judge, or don't judge the judge.
Absolutely. Do you know what? That's a brilliant point. If you judge the judge, you're just perpetuating judgment. Yeah. So noticing it and calling out in a blameless way, and notice your judge is showing up today. Yeah. Nice.
Spot and say the name of the judge.
Yeah.
And replace the judgment with positive ideas. And practice can turn the judge to constructive feedback. Some of those.
Do you know what? It just strikes me as I'm hearing that. Imagine that situation where you hear somebody say something which you think is the most ridiculous thing and completely useless, and you manage to reply with, yes, what I like about that is. Imagine the impact on you and the other person, even if you disagree, finding the small piece of wisdom in that and calling it out, and the difference that makes to you and to the rest of the team when you do that. Incredible. We've got some fabulous points online as well. Words matter. The renovated intention to speak about this with teams. Yeah. Naming the judge. Thoughts matter. Yeah, absolutely. Thoughts too. Thoughts matter. The judge blames you, others, and circumstances. You have to separate him from yourself. When trying to find a solution, good language to use is yes, what I like is. Absolutely. And content and execution sensitive. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. All contextual. Nice. Fabulous. So that brings us to the end of the materials that I got to share with you today. So just want to appreciate you all for taking part, showing up on a rainy night in Athens or online and contributing to the breakout groups and the conversations and everything. I think that's what makes the discussion, right? And feel free to get in touch with me and I'll send the slides to Harris if you want to circulate along with the recording. You're very welcome to. Harris, back to you.
Thank you so much for the presentation, Christine. I think it's a very nice sum up of the whole concept, since I've also been in a cohort of this positive intelligence, and Danielle as well was with me. So very interesting, and thank you so much. And any questions from the group here or online?
It's not a question. Just wanted to ask something. It's not exactly like as a question, but Christine.
Don't judge your question.
I'm not gonna. Yeah. I'm judging myself. So, Christine, have you ever seen Ted Lasso?
I have, yes. Yeah, I've not watched a lot of it, but I have seen it. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is an episode where someone is underestimating him, and he's modest and he doesn't show off his skills. He's not flexing or anything, and his opponent was, to let's say narcissistic, and at the end, Ted Lasso beat him, and he said the reason he lost is because you didn't embrace curiosity. You weren't curious about my skills. You were judgy and criticized the appearance of me. So my advice to you is be less judgmental and embrace curiosity.
Yes.
So this is what reminded me of that episode.
Absolutely. That's brilliant. Yeah, it's exactly that, isn't it? Less judgment and more curiosity. Yeah, love it. Thank you. I need to go and watch that episode now.
Yeah, you should. Thank you.
Anyone else? I think the crowd here is into deep thinking of what happened. Or
have a drink, have a mull, sleep on it, see how it sits. Yeah. Yeah. You've really embraced the concept. So it's been amazing. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess you all get to have a drink in the office now.
Yeah.
Yes, just one.
Just one. Okay. Cool.
Okay.
So, sorry,
have a
Harris,
good night.
go ahead.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody, and thanks, Harris, for hosting. Appreciate it. Have a lovely evening, everybody. Enjoy your drinks.
Have a second drink for us as well.
Yeah, have one for me if you would. I'll have a glass of wine. Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.